And Congressman, I want to get your reaction to what the president said today. He said in his interview with George Stephanopoulos, "I think I'd take it." And what he was talking about was help from a foreign power or a foreign national to win re-election.
It was astonishing. I mean, he contradicted not only his FBI director, but today in our intelligence hearing, even Fox contributor Andrew McCarthy said he wouldn't take such a meeting with a hostile foreign power. Another thing that he said is he thinks every congressman does this type of thing. I can say for a fact I have not yet met a single member of Congress who would accept opposition research from a foreign power, not even from Norway, which he kept talking about in that interview. But this is all ludicrous.
Congressman, what about Republican members of the House? Their president tonight said that they all do this. They would all be willing to do this. Do you expect them to come forward and say, no, we don't do this?
Well, again, I haven't met a Republican member of Congress who privately or publicly has said anything like this. But if somebody is out there who actually does this type of thing, I would like them to step forward and tell us that they do, or someone else to tell us, because I would assert that this is illegal. You know, there's a campaign finance law that says that you cannot accept anything of value from a foreign power. Now, one of the reasons that Robert Mueller did not charge members of the Trump campaign with this campaign finance violation is because he said that they did not know that it was wrongful or illegal to accept such information. However, now I don't think anybody can say that they have such ignorance of the law with regard to this campaign finance rule. And so I think at this point, I hope that every elected official and candidate for office out there in America does not do what the president says that they should do, and instead goes to the FBI as Chris Wray advises them.
Jennifer Rubin, is it possible that the president's interpretation, I won't say reading because I think we all know he's never read a word of the Mueller report, but his interpretation of the results of the Mueller report is he got away with everything, and he's continuing to get away with everything in that that's described in that report, which means he can do it again, and he can do it as directly as he stated to George Stephanopoulos tonight he's willing to do it.
I think that's exactly right. That's what his mantra is. No collusion, no obstruction. He's done nothing wrong. He claims to have been exonerated by the Mueller report. We know that's not true. We know there's substantial evidence of obstruction, but in Trump's mind, he has gotten a clean bill of health. And this is the problem with not taking swift congressional action. This is the problem with Mr. Mueller not coming out to explain the contents of the report on the assumption that Americans actually read a 448-page report, which they don't. And I think we are in dire need of hearings, and maybe we'll get them now, with witnesses, Mr. McGahn, Hope Hicks, and others that explain and explicate the crimes that this president has committed. I must say, this episode has also left me scratching my head a bit. Why didn't Mr. Mueller find that the president had violated this campaign finance reform? It seems pretty obvious that he knows what he's doing. He is seeking help from a foreign power, and ignorance of the law is not really an excuse, as Chuck has said. So wouldn't it have been better, perhaps, for all concerned if Mr. Mueller had found and had pointed out that the president of the United States, an unindicted co-conspirator, by the way, with Mr. Michael Cohen, his former lawyer, did in fact break the law?
Chuck Rosenberg, take that one and thread the legal needles for us the way you interpret Robert Mueller did on those issues that Jennifer was just talking about.
Yeah, good question. In fact, the Mueller team spends quite a few pages on this very issue. For those who don't want to read all of the report, start at page 184. I think that's where the discussion is most important. So the Mueller team says a couple of things, Lawrence. They say, number one, willfulness is hard to prove in this case. And by the way, that's always true in white-collar cases. Willfulness is always hard to prove. Much easier in a bank robbery than in a tax fraud. And second, they talk about the difficulty of establishing that the information that was to be passed at the Trump Tower meeting was, quote unquote, a thing of value. And so without getting into the legal weeds here, there is a lot of thought and a lot of consideration given to whether what happened at the Trump Tower meeting is a violation of federal criminal law. My reading is that it is. But I understand why the Mueller team was being careful, and folks who want to see the reasoning can just start at page 184, read 3, 4, 5 pages, and you'll see exactly what they're getting at.
But Chuck, one little follow-up to what Jennifer said. If you were making this case again on the re-election campaign, there would be no issue of ignorance of the law that could possibly survive, and it would seem to me it would be much easier to clear the intent threshold, especially after you heard the president tonight.
Yeah, I think that the president probably took care of the willfulness element for everybody tonight.
Yeah, and everyone working on his campaign.
And everybody working on his campaign, and anybody who is alive and breathing and paying attention to the words of the President of the United States. While willfulness is difficult to prove, Lawrence, it's not impossible. And when the President of the United States misstated the law tonight, I would hope that somebody on his staff went to him and corrected him. Perhaps it will be the Attorney General, but I think he just took willfulness off the table. That becomes easier to prove if this happens again.
Rick, I have a feeling that one of the next chapters coming in this is actually watching the Attorney General of the United States find some kind of defensive language for what the president said tonight, since he has managed, to our surprise, to find that for virtually everything the president
Yes,
says.
remember his first excuse for the president is that wouldn't a person in the president's position be upset about this kind of behavior? Wouldn't he naturally react this way? Well, of course, naturally reacting to want to have the information is also a violation of the law. And the Attorney General should be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. He shouldn't excuse this kind of behavior.
Let's listen to what the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee told Rachel in the previous hour. This is Congressman Adam Schiff.
There is no ethical standard. There is no bar below which he will not go. What I find so striking about this is he went to such trouble to deceive the country about that Trump Tower meeting. He dictated that false statement about adoptions to mislead people. So if this was so perfectly okay as he would have us believe, then why did he go to such trouble to deceive the country about that meeting? I think what the president is really saying is, yeah, I knew this was unethical and maybe illegal, and I would do it again.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, you serve on that same committee, the Intelligence Committee, with Chairman Schiff. Your reaction to what you just heard the chairman say?
That's exactly right. I agree with the chairman on this particular point, which is, you know, if it wasn't something that was a problem, why did they go to the lengths to cover it up? What are they trying to hide, right? That has really been the question that we've asked with regard to a lot of their behavior. And certainly in this situation, whether it was the Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016 or in other episodes, there was a lot of behavior that indicated that they knew that the underlying conduct was wrong, unethical, wrongful, and perhaps they also knew that it was illegal.
Elizabeth Warren has just tweeted, the Mueller report made it clear a foreign government attacked our 2016 elections to support Trump. Trump welcomed that help, and Trump obstructed the investigation. Now he said he'd do it all over again. And her last line is, it is time to impeach Donald Trump. That's something she has said before. Let's listen to what another presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, said earlier tonight on this network with Stephanie Ruhle.
Listen, he's the commander-in-chief and has a duty and a responsibility to the American people to be a defender, if not the greatest defender of our democracy. But to quite the contrary, what we hear tonight is that he is yet again open to the idea of working with foreign governments to undermine the integrity of our election system. It's outrageous.